Welcome, everybody, to session number 8. This session is going to be talking about generating ideas for change on your school improvement plan. My name is Don Williamson. I'm the Continuous Improvement Partner for ESD 171.
I'm Bill Eagle, Associate Director of Student Success and Learning at ESD 171.
And I'm Kathy Anderson, System Improvement Program Supervisor Lead and your liaison from OSPI.
We advocate for an improvement approach that might look something like this. First, start with a deep investigation of your school systems, looking to identify potential root causes of your problems. Next, bring together teams to address specific problems and focus their collective efforts around a SMARTY goal. Engage in small-scale testing of change ideas in order to build evidence of their impact. And finally, based on that evidence, choose to adopt, adapt, or abandon your change ideas, scaling out those change ideas that show promising evidence. In focusing collective efforts, a driver diagram is a great tool that can help teams visually display important connections between change ideas and goals. The purpose of a driver diagram is to identify key leverage points to go after in moving towards your goal and decide on appropriate change ideas to address those key leverage points we call drivers. For more information about driver diagrams and how to use them, please see our School Improvement News video clip number 7 on focusing collective efforts. Once you've identified key drivers that influence the goals you're trying to achieve, you'll need to generate some change ideas to address those drivers.
Improvement science works under the assumptions that the results that we get are due to the systems that we already have in place. So change ideas should address how work gets done in the system. This could involve design or redesign of a process, instructional strategy, or a service. Having a well-written goal is important, but if we don't actually specify a method to get there, it'll be hard to see improvement. We have to look at change ideas carefully for how they fit the particular system context that we're trying to change. To find potential change ideas, here's some strategies that you might try. Look at what current research says about solutions to the problem. Consider what you can learn from other schools or districts who have a similar problem and are making progress. You might brainstorm ideas based on what you've learned about the problem in your particular context. Or you could try reflecting on what you've learned during your investigation that may point to other potential solutions. Don't limit yourself to only 1 or 2 approaches for generating change ideas. So, for example, team brainstorming alone is usually not sufficient. Ultimately, you want to find what works for your context. Improvement is very contextual. So what works for some may not work for you. One pitfall we see a lot is that people rely on concepts and aren't specific enough to lead to actionable change ideas. Concepts aren't measurable usually. So an example might be, we see implement SEL curriculum or implement PBIS, and you want to get more specific than that. If you're implementing an SEL curriculum, what will you do? What are the expectations? And get as specific as possible. Another pitfall is assuming that more will solve the problem, and more doesn't always mean better. If the structure that's causing the issue remains, more won't solve the problem. So try to get to the root cause and zero in on what's going to make a noticeable difference. Another pitfall is brainstorming syndrome. Remember, brainstorming is just one way that a team can look for potential change ideas. So it's also important to look at what the research says, what other districts with similar problems are doing, especially if they're having some success, and what you've learned about the system or drivers within your own system. Another pitfall is Utopia Syndrome. Don't wait for those perfect solutions. Try something small and learn from your progress. Test and build evidence quickly, and then make adaptations and try again on solutions that show promise. And it's okay to abandon change ideas that don't show measurable impact in repeated small trials, and adopting and spreading solutions that lead to measurable results instead.
So to summarize what we've been talking about, again, there's some great research in education. So when you decide on a goal, have you looked at the research that describes how to foster that goal? Do you know what other people in the state are doing? Some people in the state who are doing really well. If you need some help, OSPI, ESD 171, and your continuous improvement partner are great sources of information. They can help you find the research. We understand that every school is unique, so you need to look at what challenges you have and then decide how you will overcome them. So as you look for potential change ideas, you need to lessen the load by splitting up some of the work. Please do not have one person try to do everything. So decide who can check with other schools that have the same problem and they're making progress. Find out who can check to find out what the research says. Who can summarize the results, learn from the problem investigation you conducted, and so on. Finally, after you get all this information, come together, consolidate your learning, and begin to list potential change ideas for each driver influencing your goals. At this point, make sure you have a short PDSA cycle in place where you can set aside some time to evaluate your activities and your progress. The teams need to emphasize how to evaluate their activities. That is, your change ideas. Are they going to adapt them, adopt them, or abandon them altogether as needed? The school improvement plan should be a living document that reflects where you are at any point in time. It tells you what you are learning. So please make time, get together and discuss what you're learning from the research, what you're learning from other districts, from your brainstorming, from your discussion on the barriers. The team approach is really important. So if you want to learn more about generating change ideas, please feel free to contact Bill, Don, or Keffy. We are here to help you. Thank you.